Hi, I'm Cora. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to slow down for a second. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to repeat words. You don't need to prove anything. Just listen. Because this episode is not about tricks, it's not about hacks, and it's not about learning English fast in a magical way. This is about something much deeper. This is about 2026 becoming the year you finally stop thinking in English and start speaking it. Not perfectly, not fluently overnight, but honestly, out loud, with commitment. A lot of people reach the end of a year and say the same thing. This year went so fast, and then quietly they add, I didn't really change. They watched videos, they listened to podcasts, they understood more. But when it came time to speak, they stayed silent. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something very important. There is nothing wrong with you. Understanding English but not speaking it is not a failure. It's a pattern, a very common one. You trained your brain, but you protected your voice. And most learners do this without realizing it. They stay in the safe zone, listening, reading, nodding along, because speaking feels exposed. When you speak, there's no pause button, no rewind, no hiding. Your voice is there, your accent is there, your mistakes are there, and the brain doesn't like exposure, so it creates excuses. I'll speak when I feel more confident. I need more vocabulary first. Next year, I'll take it seriously. But here's the truth. Confidence does not come before speaking. It comes because of speaking. And this is the moment where things change. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly, right now. 2026 does not need to be the year you study harder. It needs to be the year you stop avoiding your own voice. And that doesn't mean long conversations. It doesn't mean talking to strangers tomorrow. It doesn't mean pressure. It means one simple decision. English leaves your mouth every day. That's it. No performance, no audience, no judgment. Just sound. Your sound. Because speaking is a physical skill. Your mouth needs repetition, your brain needs proof, your nervous system needs safety. And safety is built through familiarity. When you speak every day, even a little, your brain stops treating English as a threat. It becomes a routine. And routine is powerful. At first, your voice may feel strange, too slow, too simple. That's normal. You're not trying to impress anyone. You are training a system that has been silent for too long. Think about it like this. If you don't use a muscle, it weakens. Not because it's broken, but because it's unused. Your English voice is the same. It doesn't need talent. It needs movement. And movement starts small, very small, so small that your brain can't argue with it. That's why this year is different. Not because you'll suddenly have motivation, but because you'll stop negotiating. You will stop asking yourself, should I speak today? That question disappears. Speaking becomes normal. And when something becomes normal, it stops being scary. In this series, I'm not here to push you. I'm here to walk with you, calmly, consistently, without drama. We'll build this year the right way, one voice, one day at a time. And in the next part, I want to help you understand what real commitment actually looks like when life gets busy, when energy is low, and when motivation disappears, because that's where real change happens. Now let's talk about commitment in a way that actually works in real life. Not the kind of commitment that feels exciting for a few days and then disappears when life gets busy. Not the kind that depends on motivation, energy, or perfect conditions. Because if your plan only works on good days, it's not a real plan. Real commitment is quiet. It doesn't need excitement. It doesn't need intensity. It needs clarity. So, let me make this very clear for you. In 2026, your commitment is not to study English more. It's not to understand everything. It's not to sound fluent. Your commitment is simple. English leaves your mouth every day. That's the rule. One spoken moment per day. Not a lesson, not a performance. Not a conversation if you don't want one. Just sound. your voice producing English. Some days, that moment will be short, very short. You might say 2 sentences. You might say 1 sentence. You might repeat the same sentence 3 times. That still counts, because the length doesn't matter. What matters is that English is no longer silent inside you. Most learners think speaking means talking to someone else. It doesn't. Speaking means your mouth moves in English. That's it. You can speak alone. You can speak quietly. You can speak imperfectly. Your brain doesn't care about the audience. It cares about repetition. Repetition tells your nervous system, this is safe. And when something feels safe, resistance goes down. Now let me talk about why this daily rule is so important. When you skip days, your brain keeps English in the optional category. Something you do when you feel like it, and optional things are easy to avoid. But when you speak every day, English becomes part of your identity. Not a task, not a project, a habit. And habits don't require motivation. They run automatically. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up and ask, do I feel motivated to brush my teeth today? You just do it. That's the level we're aiming for with speaking. Not effort, not pressure, normal. Now let's be honest about bad days, because they will happen. There will be days when you feel tired, days when your head feels full, days when your English sounds worse than yesterday. That's normal. And on those days, you don't stop. You simplify. You lower the bar on purpose. You might say something like, I'm tired today. My day was long. I don't feel very talkative, but I'm here. That is still speaking. And those days matter more than the good ones, because they teach your brain something powerful. They teach it that English is allowed even when things are not perfect. That's how confidence grows. Not from great performances, but from showing up when you don't feel like it. And here's something important I want you to understand. If you wait to feel confident before speaking, you will wait forever. Confidence is built after action, not before. Your job is not to feel ready. Your job is to show up. And when you do that long enough, your brain will stop treating English as something special. It becomes familiar, and familiarity creates calm. In the next part, I want to help you change the way you think about progress. Because many learners quit, not because they're failing, but because they're measuring the wrong thing. And once you change how you measure progress, everything becomes lighter. Now let's talk about progress. Not the kind of progress people show online. Not the kind that looks impressive. Real progress. This is where many learners get confused. They ask themselves questions like, do I sound fluent yet? Is my accent better? Why did I feel confident yesterday, but terrible today? And when the answers feel disappointing, they lose motivation. But the problem is not their English. The problem is how they measure progress. If you measure progress by how you feel, you will always be disappointed. Feelings change every day, sometimes every hour. One good conversation can make you feel fluent. One bad moment can make you feel like you know nothing. That doesn't mean you went backwards. It means you're human. So in 2026, we change the metric. You stop asking, did I speak well today? And you start asking, did I speak at all? That's it. That single question changes everything. Because if the answer is yes, you are moving forward. Even if your sentences were simple, even if your voice felt awkward, even if you made mistakes, speaking happened, and speaking is the engine. Now let me explain something important. Language growth is not linear. It doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in waves. Some days you feel sharp. Some days you feel slow. Some days words come easily. Other days your mind feels empty. That doesn't mean you're losing progress. It means your brain is reorganizing. Every time you speak, your brain is building new pathways. And sometimes, when new pathways are forming, things feel messy. That mess is not failure. It's construction. But if you stop during that phase, you never reach the clarity that comes after. That's why consistency matters more than talent. Now let me talk to you honestly. There will be moments in 2026 when you'll feel like quitting. Not dramatically, quietly. You'll think things like, I'm tired today. I already missed one day. I don't sound good anyway. This is where most people stop. Not because they can't learn English, but because they break the pattern. So here's the rule for those moments. If you miss a day, you don't punish yourself. You don't analyze it. You don't create a story about it. You simply speak the next day. Immediately. No catching up. No guilt. 1 day missed is nothing. 2 days missed is a pattern. You protect the pattern because the pattern protects you. Now let's talk about something subtle but powerful. Your inner voice. The way you talk to yourself in English, learning matters more than you think. If your inner voice is harsh, your nervous system tightens. And when your nervous system is tense, your mouth freezes. So we replace judgment with neutrality. Not fake positivity, not motivation quotes. Neutral language. Instead of, I'm bad at English, you say, I'm still learning. Instead of, I sound stupid, you say, this feels uncomfortable right now. Those sentences don't lie. They don't attack. They keep you moving. And movement is the goal. By now, you might notice something. We haven't talked about grammar rules. We haven't talked about vocabulary lists. That's intentional. Because speaking comes first. Once your voice is active, everything else becomes easier. Grammar sticks better. Vocabulary feels usable. Listening improves naturally. But without speaking, everything stays passive. In the next part, I want to help you prepare for real-life moments. The moments when English is not practice anymore. Work, unexpected questions, conversations you didn't plan. Because daily speaking prepares you for those moments in a very quiet, powerful way. And I want you to feel steady when they arrive. Now let's talk about real life. Because at some point, English stops being practice and becomes a situation. A meeting, a question, a moment you didn't plan. This is where many learners freeze, not because they don't know English, but because they're not used to pressure. Pressure changes everything. Your heart speeds up, your mind goes blank, your mouth feels dry. And suddenly, sentences, disappear. So here's the truth. You don't prepare for pressure by avoiding it. You prepare for pressure by making English familiar. Daily speaking does that quietly. When you speak every day, your brain stops seeing English as a threat. It becomes normal. And when something is normal, pressure has less power. That's why people who speak imperfect English confidently often communicate better than people who know more but stay silent. They're not braver. They're more familiar. Now I want you to change how you imagine real English. Real English is not perfect sentences. Real English is getting your message across while your heart is beating and your mind is not calm. And that's okay. In real conversations, people hesitate. They repeat themselves. They change sentences halfway. You're allowed to do that too. So let me give you a mental shift. Your goal is not to speak without mistakes. Your goal is to continue speaking even when mistakes happen. That's confidence. Confidence is not smoothness. It's continuity. Now let's make this practical. I want you to create what I call safe sentences. These are simple sentences you can always use when your mind goes blank. Things like, let me think for a second. I'm not sure how to say this, but that's a good question. These sentences buy you time. They calm your nervous system. They keep the conversation alive. And the beautiful part is this. You don't need many, 5 or 6 safe sentences in support hundreds of conversations. When you practice speaking every day, include these sentences. Say them out loud. Say them slowly. Say them with confidence. They become anchors. Now let's talk about expectations. You don't become confident in English overnight. But you do become calmer faster than you expect, usually within weeks, not years. The first change you'll notice is not fluency. It is less fear. You'll feel less tension when you open your mouth, less resistance, less hesitation. That's progress. Then, slowly, your sentences become longer, your pauses become shorter, your voice becomes steadier. This doesn't happen because you forced it. It happens because you stayed consistent. Now, let me say something important. You don't need to wait for January 1st. The year is just a symbol. The real change starts the moment you decide that silence is no longer an option. Not forever, just for today. One spoken moment today is already a different path. And tomorrow, you repeat it. By the time 2026 really begins, you won't be starting from zero. You'll already be someone who, in the final part, I want to talk to you directly. Not about methods, not about habits, about support. Because you're not doing this alone. I want you to hear this part slowly. Because this is not about English anymore. It's about you. If you're still listening, it means something inside you cares. Even if you're tired, even if you've tried before, even if part of you doubts, that part matters. And I want you to know something very clearly. You don't have to be strong every day. You don't have to feel motivated. You don't have to feel confident right now. You just have to stay connected. That's why I'm here. This space is not about pressure. It's not about perfection. It's not about comparing yourself to anyone else. It's about having a place where English feels safe, where you're allowed to sound slow, where you're allowed to repeat, where you're allowed to grow quietly. You can come back here whenever you need. On days you feel focused, on days you feel stuck, on days you feel like giving up. You don't need to catch up. You don't need to explain yourself. You just continue. One sentence, 1 minute, one moment of voice. That's enough. And over time, something beautiful happens. English stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a door. Not because the language changed, but because you did. You trusted yourself enough to keep speaking. So if 2026 is going to be different, it won't be because you studied harder. It will be because you stopped hiding your voice. And I want you to remember this. You're not late. You're not bad at English. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be to take the next step. And when you do, I'll be right here with you. Every time you press play, every time you speak out loud, every time you decide to try again, you can count on me. This is Cora. And whenever you're ready, we'll keep going together.